Louis was one of my freshmen at Texas A&M when I was a senior. He did really well in everything except being punctual. Thank you all for coming out and being here tonight. We are on the cusp of history. I hope all of you know that Iowa has in its grasp the opportunity to change the course of history. Those aren't just words. Literally, you all that are going to pack up here on Monday and go to that caucus have the ability, the opportunity, you have the responsibility to change history and get this country back on track again. There's only one individual that you'll have the opportunity to caucus for on Monday night that is a consistent conservative who understands that Constitution from front to back. Only one. There's only one individual that you will have the opportunity to go and caucus for, that truly can go to Washington, D.C., standing with that Constitution in hand and devolve power out of Washington, D.C. back to the states. For 14 years, I had the extraordinary privilege to represent the state of Texas as its governor. I had an attorney general and a solicitor general that did not mind suing the federal government when they got out of line, and they got out of line way too often. When there were those who wanted to take the Ten Commandments off of the grounds of the Capitol, it was Ted Cruz that was standing in front of that Supreme Court defending our right to have those Ten Commandments on those Capitol grounds. I want that committed conservative, that consistent conservative. I know one thing about Ted Cruz. Number one, he knows more about that Constitution than anybody that'll be on that caucus list. And secondly, he will stand up for it every day. He is a powerfully, incredibly sharp intellect. But he's also a man that I've really gotten to know over the course of the last 4 months. Quite frankly, just because he was my lawyer didn't mean I knew that much about him. And that's true. He called me multiple times and he said, "Governor, I want to come sit down with you." And 80 miles out of Austin, Texas, he took a day off from his presidential, and I can't tell you how precious that is. Outside of his family and his faith, his family and his faith, his time is the most precious thing that he has. And he gave a day to me so that I could talk to him, not about policy, not about the election, not about philosophy. I wanted to know who Ted Cruz the man was. And I wanted to come back to Iowa to tell you I know this man. I've had the opportunity to sit down and talk to him, and let me tell you, here's what I found. One of the great gifts that he has. This man may be the best listener of anyone that I have been involved with in public office. I can tell that is a gift. And the other thing that I found out in those conversations and those phone calls subsequently, Ted Cruz knows what he does not know. You know how important that is? In the Oval Office, in the most powerful job in the world, to know what you do not know, to realize you've got to have people around you that are experts, that you trust, that you empower, to go deal with those agencies of government, to go deal with those foreign countries, to deal with military and foreign affairs. There are some people who don't know what they don't know. You know what I mean? That scares me. I don't want in the Oval Office somebody that thinks they know everything. Because that person hadn't been born yet. That man or woman is not alive and never will be. I want someone who puts a team together. I want to wrap up with 3 things that are incredibly important from my perspective about the characteristics of a leader. In my 35 5+ years of public service as a pilot in the United States Air Force and working in Texas state government, I've had the opportunity to observe a lot of people. And a real leader, a great leader, is an individual of humility. A person who understands they work for you, not the other way around. All too often people want to go to Washington, D.C., or they want to be the governor of a state so that they can will that power. They can have the trappings of that office. Ted Cruz understands that he will work for you. He's your hired hand. He's going to do your will. He's going to tell you what he's going to do, and then he's going to go do it. The second characteristic is I want someone who is courageous. I want an individual of courage in that office. When Ted Cruz asked to be our senator from Texas, he stood up and he said, "Let me tell you what I'm going to do." He said, "This is what I'm going to do if you have the trust in me to be your United States senator. I'm going to go to Washington. I'm going to do everything in my power to defund Obamacare. I'm going to do everything that I can to make sure that the economy comes back in this country so that any hard-working, able-bodied American that wants to have a job has a job." He said that's what he's going to do. He said, "I'm going to do everything that I can to make sure that our military men and women have the support that they need, and that we're not going to get into the nation-building business. We're not going to send our young men and women into places unless America's interests are in danger or our allies are in danger. And I'm going to make sure that every veteran that comes back makes double sure that they get and are taken care of, and that they have the health care and the needs taken care of that they have earned." That's what he said he was going to do. And Ted Cruz went to Washington, D.C., and he did exactly what he said he would do. He is the consistent conservative in this contest. The third thing, I want a president of the United States in the Oval Office that is grateful to God Almighty, and knows that they are there in that place by the grace of God. And those of you that know Ted Cruz's story, his father, an alcoholic, left his family, but by the grace of God, came back, convicted, understands the concepts of grace. Probably gets up every morning and asks God for forgiveness at least a couple times, even before breakfast. It's my bet. Some people don't have to do that. Most of us do. But by the grace of God, this man knows that he could be in a lot of different places had Jesus Christ not convicted his father. I want a man of humility. I want an individual of courage, and I want someone who is grateful to God for where they find themselves in life. That is the characteristics of a great leader. Ladies and gentlemen, you caucus for Ted Cruz, and you will get that consistent conservative. You will get a man of God. You will get a powerful individual as the next president of the United States. It's up to you. The future of this country is in your hands. And there is a man who I've had the great privilege to get to know over the course of my trips to Iowa many times since 2011, who has given a great deal of his life, his will, his treasure, to not just this great state, but to our country. Welcome to this stage a United States Congressman who is making a difference, and again, a convicted conservative of extraordinary beliefs. Senator, excuse me, I just raised your title. Congressman Steve King.